Hey, everybody. Welcome out to the AI Think Tank podcast. For the 12th episode, we'll be discussing the global state of artificial intelligence and business, as well as its impact on humanity. My dear friend, cohort, and colleague, Egle B. Thomas, PhD, MBA, will be sharing her experience from the new year to now. We'll be covering AI's impact on art, music, business, and humanity. You're a renowned international AI advisor and business expert, and I have known you for going on close to a year now, as we met through MIT and have since been really good friends. And you're one of the busiest people I know in the field and do so much. How are you doing today?
Good, very good. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, you're coming in from Switzerland today.
Yes.
Uh, and so, yeah, I hope you've been having a good summer here. I know I've been trying to enjoy the sun a little bit, and after a 4 week break, it's nice to see you. Yeah, so you're rarely home, and every time I see you, you're on some stage or with a group of really great people who know how to build things, and it's always exciting to follow what you do. And so, tell us where have you been lately, and what have you been seeing out there on your travels?
So from my perspective, I feel that industry is changing, and then of course everybody's expectations and needs are also changing. I've been telling my clients a year ago that I couldn't wait for this summer because I felt that everything would be integrated by now, and it is. So AI being integrated into phones, into the main systems, it reduces a lot of anxiety. It helps people to integrate things much more efficiently when it becomes available mainstream. As you know, and as we all work on systems that we find are much nicer and much better.
Mhm.
But for most companies, it's too difficult, risky to implement. So I'm always looking with each company, with each organization that I work with, what is it that they're trying to do? What is it that will help them the best? And also what will minimize the risks that they would be exposed to. So that is
Right.
really helpful. And also coaching, training startups in that space is very helpful. A number of them are in AI. So again, it's very nice to also be working from them and looking at their systems and supporting their system integration. So it is a wonderful time to be in this space because
Right.
everything seems to be starting to converge.
Uh-huh. And you work with on such a large level too. I mean, and we'll have to take a moment to walk through this, but the training that we've got from our MIT course that we shared together was really, they talked to us a lot about really understanding what you're engaging with, and understanding the systems around that, which you can't just throw AI at these problems. You can't throw technology at problems or money at problems, but real solutions to dial in. I mean, you and I have worked in tech for a very long time on our own. I know I've been into it for 24 years or longer now at this point, and you've been out there doing this for way longer than AI was a hype or a buzz at any point, and or even machine learning had came back from a sort of dark age of not doing too much for a while there. So, but we've both been technologists in different ways throughout all of this. And what we shared in our journey together with that, what we learned was incredible. And it was the insight that we gained along the way with each other and all of our other fellow cohorts that really brought a full spectrum of perspective to the table. And so since then, I've always, followed you as closely as I can just to see, okay, how are things out there and what is going on? But you started a long time ago. Could you tell us about, how you got into this and maybe your origin story? Because it's so interesting. As we had our private meetings, last year and even earlier this year. Uh, you told your story and it just blew everybody's minds. So I was thinking maybe you could take a moment to tell everybody else out there kind of how you got into this, because you moved to America, I think, when you were 15, is that right? Somewhere around
17.
17?
17.
There
I
we
just
go.
finished.
Oh, that's close.
Finished my high school. I had $50 saved,
Uh-huh.
and I was spending for one-way flight to Chicago. And at 17, it sounded like a good idea. I was going to get my education there. And then the moment I landed on the other side in Chicago, my heart kind of sank because I understood that the $50 might not go that far to get my
No.
education. So it was an interesting journey. I learned a lot. So I kind of became entrepreneur at the early stage, figuring out how to make things work. But where this relates to the AI and tech story is that I ended up living with a family who invited me to live with them, and American family. And what was really nice is met my host brother, or my adopted brother in the family. He just left for university, but he would come back for the Christmas and Easter and family trips that I joined them on. So it was very nice because he's one of the key names in the tech space. So he
Oh,
was the CEO of Tableau, Mark Nelson, and then he sold it to Salesforce for
mhm.
a big amount of money.
Yeah, he's a local
So,
rock star here in Seattle for sure. So I know
so,
last time I met with someone, it was right on at a coffee shop right around Tableau building over here in Fremont. So
So for me, it was really nice to be exposed to top quality people from early on, really top tech people, but also to see the convergence of tech and business and how things can be done right. And for me, I always admired and watching Mark's career and where things went, and just there are not many leaders who are so good in tech as also so good with people. And we'll get into the discussion later on today, because for me, working with organizations implementing AI is a two-way street. It's really how to implement AI and how do you leverage really the strengths of people, because AI needs to come in between, and you need to really make sure that your employees continue driving activities are not disempowered. So we'll come back to that.
yeah, yeah. And there's a lot to learn there too, because right off the bat, everybody was using every tool that we could pick up and try out for a long time. And I still am like this, and it's just such a fever, like, oh, what's next and what's going to work. And one of the things I've always been impressed with is how quickly you incorporate these tools and have, kicked the tires on them and tried them out. And you have so many real world use cases from your vast experience in the field. From just the deep conversations you've had with other people out there who understand the needs and understand where those gaps are and where those pain points are for everybody really. And because it's still a growing art and less of a science, as much as we'd like to make it one. It will be, but it's going to take some real time and real effort to get there. So but things are coming into place, in certain areas. But just on the look, just the end user, okay, not some huge deployment, but just as an end user, you've done so much. I've seen you take and use, and we'll get into this, but from music software to image software, video software. I mean, in our WhatsApp group for MIT, I remember when Llama 3 came out, you had made some really funny stuff, and it was like three llamas hanging out. But then you started making like versions of me. It's like me like later on in different situations. It was really flattering, and I felt like a nice mixture of Mr. Bean and George Clooney at that point. But anyway, but you were always lighthearted with it and having fun, and it helped encourage a lot of people, I think, and it always kept things in my radar to see what you were doing, and so that was great. But along the way, we all tried so many tools to glue things together and to automate something or to help me. And my favorite was doing research and just gathering data and not necessarily getting it to automate anything beyond just go fetch me something and let's talk about it. And that's how I started. And, I came in, as someone who programmed and developed on my own before I ever thought about, being a part of that program that we were in. And when I started making my own milestones and achievements, I thought, hey, you know what? It's time to go ahead and lean into this now. And I'm having great success. So, and further, it has continued. So, anyways, but yeah, you have that perspective. I know that I spent, 18 or actually still longer. I'm a fractional CIO, CTO for my old company, but I spent a solid 18 years there as a technical officer and a technology advisor. And I learned a lot, and things shifted rapidly then too. And it was a lot more with devices and larger data analysis and QC type operations, and also making things possible with standards out in Redmond, Washington. So that was great. But so I've had my heart in this and a lot of blood in the game for a long time, and so have you. And you work with a myriad of companies and you coach them. And I'm kind of jealous because I'd love to be in Switzerland and go out in the woods with you guys, because I know you do it like in a very different way. But tell us about that a little bit. Actually, I love this about what you do.
So for me, I feel like I've been lucky to be right places, right time. over when technology development. So, when you mentioned internet developing, my best friend was interning at Fermilab where it was developed. So he would sneak me in and we would play there before, like a year before anybody in the world knew what it was. And we made one of the first web pages. We made the first one with a voice on it. So, I was lucky in overall on a tech side, kind of all the way through, but I really feel like it was lucky. I knew the right people, but it was also a big part of luck. And same thing was with AI. I ended up representing a company as a consultant that wanted to come to Europe. And they had a non-sequential data recognition, but that was around 15 years ago. They had non-sequential data recognition system, and it was allowing to sequence, for example, genome, because until then it had to be in certain sequence, and they were able to look at the non-sequential data recognition and also answer why. So these were two things that the regulations, that people were starting to think of regulations, and they needed help. So I was really lucky to get involved early to help them and to talk to key, banks and pharma companies in Europe about using the technology. And then, of course, when I moved to Switzerland, coaching a number of companies here, one of the key ones was Vizu. So it's a company that has a natural language processing based system that allows to do internal data search, and it provides answers in a really intuitive way. So it's a bit like ChatGPT, but it's used in banks and pharma companies, insurance, so really high standard, high regulatory, high security, because it's internal data, only internal search. But because they have millions of queries by now, it's really nice if you search for something, it will answer what you asked for, but also will answer what you were thinking of asking for, because they have so many data points to really know what you're going to ask next.
Yeah.
So these guys are in Zurich, and Mark came to visit them. I introduced them, and it was really
Wow.
nice.
Yeah, that's
The,
phenomenal.
the
Yeah.
picture I ended up using, so it was during the
Wow.
visit a year ago in September.
Wow, there's so much to unpack there. I love that because I've been doing nothing but local, safe, private deployments on hardware at home and having blazing results with a lot of models and keeping it, secure is very, very, very important. It always has been. And I've learned my lesson a few times. But seriously, I mean, it's great to hear that. I love to know that there is something working out there and in different ways, especially in critical environments, and something more stringent. And that's the talk right now is that, you don't need these super large models to do everything. You need something that's slimmed down. I mean, if you're for business use cases, I don't need to make poetry out of these spreadsheets. Okay, fair enough. There's plenty of things that you could put in there other than that really help spice things up. I know recently Microsoft just unveiled what's called a spreadsheet LLM, and it's really a compressor that takes and is able to sort this data and clean it in such an intelligent way that it's easier and with less tokens and complexity accessible to an LLM model. And up to over 25% more than ChatGPT 4 Turbo at this point, from what I'm reading. So that's a phenomenal gain. And, slowly but surely, a lot of these solutions are coming together and trickling into place. And albeit, some from major corporations and the behemoths that they are, and some from open source communities. I know that back in last year, in our private MIT meetings, you introduced us to SwissVault, which they were on the show last month, actually, before the break. And I've seen them through that to being a part of what's called Quai, which is a democratized AI centric personal AIOS kind of platform organization. It's a nonprofit, but now they're sponsors like me. And so we're in our meetings together, and I look over, I'm like, yeah, Egle, what a woman. She's really made the world smaller for us, but it's great. Just, how much good influence and energy that you put out there into helping people and me along the way. I mean, we've had some wonderful conversations as friends and looking at this as team members out at the world going, what's going to happen next? And I'm pivoting so often right now, and with certain things. So, but it's good to have certainty in all of this and know that there are things working out and for a lot of these companies. So let's see, where where did you just come from lately? I saw you on a stage in front of some large screens last time you were out. What conference was that?
So we had a big conference here in Basel, pharmaceutical conference, and I got to give a speech about AI integration in healthcare. And that was really nice, really nice to see the audience reactions. For me, what was interesting about that specific presentation was when I went on stage, I kind of had in my mind, maybe you think I normally just make things up, but I kind of had in my mind with how I was going to start. And I went on a stage, and lights were shining, I couldn't see anything. It was just completely blinded. And I felt like there's something else I need to do. So I completely flipped the way that I started the presentation. And I said something that I learned is let's do a breathing exercise because I know there's not a single person in this room that doesn't feel emotional about AI, either
Right.
excited or upset or stressed or scared. Every single person carries an emotion. I really felt it in the room going to speak about AI and feeling that unease from the whole audience. And then after the meeting, after the presentation, I had several people come up and say, "Thank you so much. That was so nice. We needed it because there was, you could feel it. We, like you and I and our classmates, we are so excited about it. Of course, we know the bad sides of it, and then we are very conscious about implementing, knowing the risks that are there.
Mhm.
But we are so excited about it. Sometimes we forget that probably half people out there are scared. And when they see us excited, they really don't come along on a journey because they feel like we are overexcited and we think everything is good. And actually, there's a lot of other things that need to be addressed. But I feel
Yeah.
like being able to bring the whole package, the really good things, continuing being excited and focusing on that, but also being very conscious about all the risks is a way that really works in the industry to get things
Right.
done.
People talk about the AI bubble, but there's the first AI bubble, which is the one we're in, being excited about it. And yeah, what are you going to do when there's 5 or 6 tools every day that just get announced? I even now I'm still in the summer trying to keep up with all the new models that come out, and I have one that I'm running that's just around 9 GB on my own computer, and it's very fast. And so I'm testing that. I'm testing so many things side by side. And ever since we met, we've all been testing and testing, nearly every day with things. And so it's wonderful to see what we can get on our own and how much we've adopted it again. But let's see, can you tell us about what other trends for just general business that you're seeing in terms of use cases that people are going for more than not? Now, we know internal data, okay, and access to that and being able to talk to that, so to speak, that's important. But there are so many types and so many types of pipelines, and there's so many different types of structures or things that are unstructured. And how can we manage this? And at what point are you doing twice as much work to make sure it's correct? Is it really saving you time? There's so many stipulations there. So, is there anything you could speak to that on?
So the complexity in AI is really high. And for me, with my clients, I never have two that are similar. So it's really based on what their needs are. And for me, I'm really rational and really strategic. What is it that you need? What is it that will work? I know for myself and for you, we want to know what's best because having clients, I want to be able to give them what's best for them. But from their perspective, I want to give them what's good enough for them, not necessarily push to the limit so that there might be a risk or things in the development and allow them to get started. And for me, the people part comes in here a lot too, because people have to like it, people have to be comfortable. So half of the work is really bringing the team along, working with the team and
Yeah.
making it a decision about what they want to bring in and integrate. And then I help to make
Right.
it easy. So again, I don't go as much in depth on the technical side as you do. No, we can bring experts as needed, but I love helping with a strategy to really see what are you doing, work with AI be used, how can it be integrated, what systems would work here, and then how do you bring them along, and then
Right.
seeing the impact that it makes, but also impact on people and shuffling, reorganizing how people work with AI, and we'll get into that in a bit. But for me, that is equally important because if it affects people negatively, it's not a good thing. So Harvard Business School has done quite a few studies that I took Harvard courses before some MIT, so I got exposed to some of that research, and then they published some of the research. And they showed that when you bring AI to company, on average, performance drops by 8% each time. And then if you bring multiple projects, it drops 8% each time. It comes back eventually. And they show that performance drops even if one team is using and the other one team is not using it. The one who is not using their performance drops too, just by knowing that the other team is using AI. So there's a lot of kind of anxiety, stress, and it affects the performance. So for me, again, when I work on integration, look at the complete package for each client. What is it that you need? And
Mm-hmm.
how do you integrate it the way that is nice and easy and fun? And my clients love it because I make it easy for them. They think, oh, it's
Yeah.
always I
Uh-huh.
simplify everything, and then they like, okay, it's easy. And
Uh-huh.
I feel like I'm in the luckiest place that anybody can be because I do things that I absolutely love, and I get paid for it. So last week I did a workshop, 4-hour workshop for one of the funding groups, and they wanted to learn all the updates, what they can practically use.
Mhm.
They wanted to know everything about regulatory environment globally. So
Yeah,
you saw
that's a
my,
lot.
it is like for me, like it's many hours of research. So I picked our group, does anybody know anything? And then they wanted to make a song, AI song for them their group song.
Yeah.
So I end up working doing this the most fun things ever, and we come out and everybody's smiling, everybody's happy, everybody knows what to do next. So I absolutely love it. I'm in a space that I love, and I work and help and make people's lives better and make companies more
Right.
efficient. So
Uh-huh.
it's
Yeah, onboarding is it can be tricky, I imagine, and there's so many different takes on the same thing. And even at, like my old company, when we started a new system, we built it in the back end, and it was our new ordering system, but it also allowed you to do all these other things and manage tickets and jobs. And everybody's always skeptical of the new system, but because we built it from the ground up for so many years, we all were just so ready for it to work, right? But I can imagine coming in from somewhere and then all of a sudden this invasive new species of technology is reaching the bounds of your office and your enterprise, and like it can be exciting and it can be a little, like you said, ridden with anxiety depending on where you're coming from. I know from where we are and all we've been exposed to, my top concern usually is how accurate is this? I need these tools. These tools help me in so many ways. And honestly, I'm always questioning how well it works. I'm never believing it 100%, and you can't. There's a lot of perspectives in all of this. People talk about hallucinations and whatnot, and those things are made to hallucinate. Everything that comes out of one is a hallucination. It may not be on track, or it may be on track with whatever you're talking about, but it is coming up with stuff. And as we've learned, in neuroscience, that the human brain is wired for reasoning, not memorization. And so you're never going to tell the same story every time the same way unless you rehearse that. And it's a bit you do, like a stage show, like a comic. But anyway, not to say we can't, and plenty of people do, but we're just not really, optimized for that as much. And we look at the system that we built around ourselves and think, why are you doing that? Well, it learned from us. We made it like us, and those neurons are working a particular way. Can you change that? Absolutely. But that's kind of where it is. So I see, a lot of the tests that we did in our private meetings when I would show off RAG operations for people. Oh, here's a list of employees, and you could ask it how many employees it had, and it would say one number, and then the next time it would say a different number, and you're like, well, you're not made for counting either, are you? And so eventually you could have it coming up with all kind of things that weren't true, but at first it really did a good job. And so behind the scenes we're making things tighter and more locked down and more on the rails. I know we've had some of our fellow cohorts do some really good jobs with their AI bots and things like that over time, and now have companies based on it. They're so good at it. So and that's exciting to know. But on the practical end of things, everybody wants to integrate into something older perhaps, or bring big data into the picture in a way that makes sense. And have you seen any large implementations out there that are really working for some of the companies that you've been involved with, on top of what you've already told us?
So I know some of the bigger companies who've been integrating AI, and it's been an interesting journey over the last year. So a year ago, there was a very large discomfort with AI. And what it was interesting, the CEOs of some of the large companies here were saying that they were not training their employees in AI. There was too much anxiety. They were only training very select people to be able to use it. And again, for me, it affects the dynamics. I understand why they did it. But last year, I think Harvard Business Research said 11 companies actually banned ChatGPT use or AI use inside. I
Yeah.
just heard news now that something like around 75% of employees currently use AI, but only about a third can tell their managers that they're using it. So there's still that really big disconnect. So
Mhm.
when it comes to integration, for me, one again, we came back here to people side, but there's also the architecture, data architecture side that's really, really important. So again, from what I've seen, that most companies are not positioned from a data architecture side at the moment because their systems were built specific way, and now to bring this in is really hard. So
Right.
I went to a Planisware conference, and Planisware is one of the tools to manage your data. So similar to Tableau, similar to kind of Salesforce. And it was interesting to see how they were trying to bring in AI, but again, it was like pocket by pocket because it was so hard just because of the data architecture, the way the systems were built. And when you look also at the research, so again, Harvard Business Review did a study about with chief development officers across companies about the data architecture, and what they said, I think it was around 80% of chief development officers said that data architecture is really, really important.
Mhm.
And then when they looked at, so I think like 67% were planning to invest in it. And this was this year, I think it was April publication. Most of them have not seen any impact so far. So they had the cost, but not really impact because there was no time to get the impact. And
Mhm.
then when they looked at the future and they asked how many thought that their systems were actually where they need to be, only 11% were answered that their systems would be suitable to implement AI.
Mhm.
So there's a very big disconnect in the thinking,
Yeah.
in the planning and understanding how to integrate it.
Right.
And then of course, if company starts integrating without looking at all the architecture behind it, and then things get frustrating and things don't work, and then you see all these recent publications about the AI bubble, AI doesn't work, but people don't realize that any technology shift, you need to integrate, you need to build, you need to start from the right place. And if
Mhm.
you want to be AI first, you need to be data first, and you need
Right.
to divide data architecture.
Yeah. And that's a lot. That's a big tell too, because with these older systems, and that's something I'm used to supporting is legacy systems and in real life, as an administrator as well, and on-prem. And that's the thing is you have a lot of companies that have their hardware tied up somewhere, and if it's local, then there are local solutions, but it takes a lot of effort. And so with privacy matters and security matters, that's why I've taken the tack to focus on only on-prem to start with, because it's easier just to use anything else. Okay. But just go to the on-prem solutions, find something that has legacy support in terms of personnel, and adopt that version of that database, whatever is going to be a long-term known win for support. That's what people are going to most likely, go to. And if you can maintain that level of security and privacy, then that's even better. Okay. And so a lot of people want to use OpenAI. They want the best. Okay. But not me. Okay. I want privacy. I want security. I'm not going to trust their API. It was great for testing. It was great for a lot of the things I did in the beginning, but there came a time when it was time to turn that off. And so there are plenty of ways that a company can host even remotely through Azure or AWS or Google Cloud Services, um, their own open model or even something they train that's secure, and they can act, all the buildings can access it from a variety of states from around the world. They have access to this securely. It's not going through some other company, but there is endpoint security that is a concern. It's a huge concern. Okay. But the choice is there. You can do an on-prem. You can use, normal known hardware that's not super, expensive or, on the cutting edge, and support running these mid-sized models of, I'm running 7B models or 15B models at home, but you can run the full-fledged models of Llama 3 and all these other varieties out there on, rented hardware essentially on the cloud, and have, great availability and great performance. But then you just have to live with your endpoint security and have whatever you set up there. Okay. So I embrace all of this. I think that when the need arises, it's going to have its own constraints, and that's what we have to fit into. But the adoption curve, um, is riddled with hardware, constraints mainly, that first, and then also, hey, this is costs a lot of money, and how are we going to do we really want to implement something we don't really know how it's going to work? So if you have the type of team available, if a company is already a tech company, they're going to have some people and some minds on that perhaps that already have a solution that works or may have been trying it already. I love to hack. I love to code. I don't do it all the time, but when I do, I'm really into what I'm working on. There's a lot that I have to do, so I can't just do that all the time like I was when we met. But I see a lot of fruitful opportunities in this, and it seems to be where you're at, which is to help shepherd people into this as it really is fit to happen, where it is fit to happen, not really forcing this everywhere, but like you wouldn't want to do that with anything. That's not how solutions work. If your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So, um, let's see here. So I know that I, as an artist, a performer, an engineer, someone who's worked on concerts and stage shows my whole life, who's performed on those same stages, who's recorded, who's made videos, who's done art and big shows everywhere. And I just love what I do. I love creating. None of this intimidates me. It empowers me. Just like you said, you get asked to do things for companies like make us this motivational song or put something together. And a lot of these videos you do are really helpful. I recently was asked to make AI generated video assets for a movie that's already been filmed, and the editor's getting the parts to me right now. And that's exciting. I have friends who have been lifelong artists and painters who do digital art where they use AI generated assets that they've created to their liking, and then they employ that and incorporate that into what they do. And it's phenomenal. And there's a lot of people out there who do this and have been doing it since all this started. It was like a dream come true, just another tool for us, just like a plugin or something. And because I am a physical artist and work with a physical world, and also use fabrication and digital techniques for a myriad of ways, I'm making things that you hold and not ideas that you can download. Sure, you can take a picture of it, but I think for a lot of people, none of this is intimidating. It's a great tool in the community of people who do 3D printing, using AI to formulate and decide what's the best internal structure to use with the least amount of material is a doable gain. This is something that people are using now to make things better. And it's in the small of things, I think, that AI and again, machine learning, just like standard stuff, like traditional stuff, really is handy. I've seen so much evolution with video software. There have been people that were doing auto splining for 3D. So the AI also generated splining that you could take to another program. And that's extremely valuable. I've had friends in the video game industry for decades, people who draw by hand, were animators that were in school 1,000 pages a night, doing this analog, and who have now, further adopted every technology along the way to help assist them in whatever means. For some of us, it's drafting something to say, hey, that would work. That could look cool. Let me get to work on that. It's a great way to throw spaghetti at the wall. It's a great way to jam and to come up with ideas and gather information. But at not one point have I felt really intimidated by it. All along the way, there have been artists using, digital means, musicians creating things with loops, samples, and otherwise incorporating outside sources, and nothing's really any different. It's just a matter of this weird automation, this weird sort of alien life form that we have now that we've created that just comes up with stuff and hallucinates its way to our hearts in some regards. Otherwise it's to the court, because on top of all this, there's creative concerns. I know that even in our group at Quai, where we have a lot of people from Hollywood and entertainment, where they've embraced it's really amazing. But the concerns are real, and everybody wants protection for their intellectual property. Everybody wants the access to a tool for those possibilities, but at the same time, there's got to be a balance. And so, you had mentioned something to me about a recent lawsuit that you had been following. I'm not sure if you were going to bring it up or not.
Yeah. So the music industry is suing Suno and Udio, the two main platforms in music creation. And it's interesting to see it evolve. Of course, that's a very strong group, music industry. They've been very united for a long time. But I really see the moment now as a blockbuster moment,
Yeah.
because they cannot stop the creatives using these tools. It's happening. It's an online production streaming in numbers of, I expect millions by now from the time of Suno Audio came on stream. There's a lot of content. I know for myself, I get about, well, and I'm quite new in this, I'm getting about 6,000 views a day. The new song that I shared with you in the last day and a half have over 2,000 views. So it is people like me that really affect the music business, because many people don't go to traditional musicians, listen to their music, but they go for something that makes them feel good and really they resonate with, not a really artistic top quality sound and so on, but really something with a meaning that they resonate. So, and no, no, there's thousands of people like me. There are many that have many more people listening. And I'm brand new. I never had a chance to do any music training. I always felt like I was missing on this in my life. I can do more or less everything else except for music.
Mhm.
So I really feel that this is blockbuster moment for the music industry, because creatives are out there, people are creating music. As you mentioned, people who are embracing these tools, it's an amazing tool to brainstorm, to test, to see how things would go. So I don't see it as a tool that actually creates things. It's not possible. You still need to write the lyrics. You still need to think of the style. You need to still a lot about structure.
Right.
It's not as easy as one thinks, but it enables people without that in-depth education in the arts to be able to create and share and really make impact in the world that was not available before. And the way I see this, the music industry fight with Udio and Suno, these companies are not there developing professional musicians. They're allowing normal people to express themselves and enjoy the power of music for
Yeah.
connection, for healing, for all of these beautiful emotional connections that we hold with each other. So for me, I think it will be interesting to see where it comes out, but I don't think the industry can be stopped. People are
No.
making music. There are millions of soundtracks now on the web.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
very interesting time in the
Yeah.
industry.
I love it. And I use Suno to draft out things and try things out. Just to see how it would do as someone who's produced for a lifetime, and performed. It's like, hey, what does this really do? And it's not to a level that you would ever want to release completely. It's a great way to draft out and then write a song. But um the guys at This Day in AI, one of my favorite podcasts, I'll give them a shout out. They came up with a country singer star persona, wrote a bunch of songs for him using Suno, submitted them to a bunch of record labels and got callbacks. And then they were at a position where they didn't know what to do, like, okay, we've got to come clean and let them know this isn't real. But it was so realistic. And I think if you're listening to a demo that's like, not this mastered album, but like someone's demo, it's really acceptable. It's hilarious at times. But for me, as someone who's played lots of different instruments, lots of different styles around the world, worked with many stars, across the eras, I feel like this is a great way to find out how things come together too. Unless you have a room full of musicians that are extremely diverse, you might not be able to put certain genres together the same way. And I've done a fair amount of that with production over the years with just standard technology. Okay. Um, but also, with having something to say. And it's like you said, you didn't get that training in music. You and I are opposites like this. I grew up playing and teaching music and performing. But you have spent so many years writing lyrics and poetry. And so that when you started doing this, it was really a really wonderful thing to witness, because it's like, oh, here's a poet, here's a writer with feelings. All of this is heart to begin with. And so you really wrote something that was yours, and then decided that in whatever style that this came out through Suno, that's what I wanted. That was really close. That was good enough, or that was really on the nose. And so I always loved that. And we have one of your videos here. I don't know if we want to wait to play this or not, so people can hear this song, or
Or
so
if you want, we can play it now and have a break. And for
yeah.
me, the song, so I just released it a day and a half ago, and
Uh-huh.
it's exactly what Dan mentioned now. Is It's called Perfectly Imperfect. It's about sharing things that come from your heart, just perfectly imperfect. It's without trying to make it absolutely perfect quality and everything being there. And again, that's my discussion about the music industry. people like me, we're not competing with professional musicians. I'm not, because the quality, it's not 100% there. I had somebody visiting who works with professional musicians, and he listened to my songs, and he can tell that's not a real instrument. He can tell the voice. So professional musicians can tell, but most people, 80% of people don't care. It's about how it affects with them, how it resonates, how it connects them to others, how it makes impact in their lives. So for me, the song really represented that concept of that I like to working with my clients and everyone else, is just getting things out there, imperfect, but they're perfect as they are because they make an impact. So that's what the topic of the song was about.
You used this on Suno. You produced this with Suno, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And the video is, how did you get the video part?
Manually, it's a lot of work. Unfortunately, none
Okay.
of the AI tools are good enough yet. They
Uh,
don't suggest anything helpful. So videos I still make by hand, and I can't wait for the systems to be there to
yeah.
help with the video side.
I thought you were using Sora for a while until I asked. That was months ago. I was like, how did you get access to Sora? And I didn't even think twice because you are lucky and you get access to so many things. So anyway, I'll go ahead and play this video right now. We're going to full screen share this and with sound. So here we go. We're going to listen to Egla's song. And what's the title of it again?
Perfectly imperfect.
All right, here we go.
In a world that seeks perfection, I find beauty in the flaws. Every crack and every blemish tells a story of who we are. In the lines that aren't so straight, in the notes that sometimes break, there's a truth that's always shining in the messes that we make. Perfectly imperfect, that's the way we are. Every scar and every tear, a work of art. In the chaos, in the mess, we find our place. Perfectly imperfect with a tender grace. In the paintings with smudged colors, in the songs with broken chords, there's a whisper of our journey, in the beauty that's ignored. In the laughter and the tears, in the moments of our fears, we find love that's never ending, in the echoes of the years. Perfectly imperfect, that's the way we are. Every scar and every tear, a work of art. In the chaos, in the mess, we find our place. Perfectly imperfect with a tender grace. We are rivers running wild, mountains tall with broken chords. There's a whisper of our journey, in the beauty that's ignored. In the laughter and the tears, in the moments of our fears, we find love that's never ending, in the echoes of the years. Perfectly imperfect, that's the way we are. Every scar and every tear, a work of art. In the chaos, in the mess, we find our place. Perfectly imperfect with a tender grace. So let's embrace our imperfections, let them shine in every part. For we're not perfect imperfections, we reveal our truest hearts. Perfectly imperfect, that's the way we are. Every scar and every tear, a work of art. In the chaos, in the mess, we find our place. Perfectly imperfect with a tender grace.
All right. Good work. That was wonderful. You've written a lot of inspirational songs in the last few months, and that was great.
And for me, it combines my work. So again, my most of my work has been leadership training, high performance training, and then also I got certified as a mental health coach and mental health coach trainer. So a lot of work is really helping people with their well-being in what they do. So a lot of the things that I write are from the coaching perspective, helping people think through, have new ideas, and look at things in a different way. So really looking at the well-being of us as a community, as a whole society, which I feel is really missing at the moment with a mental health crisis, not having enough professionals. So again, for me, I put the techniques that I have, what's in my heart, sharing these messages. And for me, this song was really, if I try to be perfect, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing because it's not possible. Like none of us know everything. And it's really going and doing and making impact and being 80% perfect and moving and making it better. Because otherwise we would feel stuck and we would be part of the burnout and mental health space where people struggle if we're not moving forward. So again, my music, my songs is really to help people move along, feel better. And there are a lot of comments, so it's all on YouTube. So my channel is Egle and then hyphen inner light.
Put
So
that in the chat for everybody. Put your link in there.
okay, so
That would be great. Yeah.
so maybe I'll do it when you're talking. But there are a lot of comments. No, I found it at the right time for one of the songs. The other one that I sent you, somebody said I listened to this for 600-kilometer drive on a loop nonstop. So it's really. And then like for this song, there's a comment saying, "Why are only 1,000 views? There should be millions." And I responded, "It's only one day it's been on YouTube, so it will go up." But for me, it is really about not looking for perfection, looking for impact. What can we do? What do we know? What skills do we have to help people? And for me, being in AI space, it's really, really important because it's really AI, it's really intimidating to at least have people out there. And how can we make it easier, nicer, fun, implementing, playing with it, bringing that acceptance and really joy and curiosity versus something that has to be done or something that will take your job away.
Right. This is an interactive experience. This is not some letter in the mail telling you how it's going to be. In any system you engage with, it's going to change. And whatever your end vision is, it might be maintained through some means or another, but everything is changing. And the moment you engage with it, you've given it something and it's different. And so you have to learn with it. And it's been a powerful tool for me to sort things out and understand ideas better and just to see things through a different lens and get different perspectives. And on the mental health end of things, I think that, and we've talked about this for a long time though, but it's worth mentioning that, hey, here's something that will keep your dignity and you can talk to it and you can have a private conversation at any time you need and then get perspective and maybe help, and even when I've tested a lot of systems that were like Pi AI, PI, when that came out, that was really geared for mental health a lot and just emotional support. And it did such a wonderful job. And they maintained clarity throughout. I mean, it was a clear conversation. I never had it lose track of what the intent was. And I was always so impressed with that. And at any point, when you were testing these systems, you would see how it would act if someone, felt a certain way. It would say, you need to seek, human help. You need to seek others. I can't give you all the answers. And so I thought that was great because it was realistic. It didn't offer some, offbeat suggestion that's questionable. It was on the rails, but it's not a guarantee. And making systems safe and creating an environment where these kind of things are fostered is important. Because everybody benefits. I have friends when they are doing well, they help others. And I think that goes for a lot of people out there. And the stronger everyone is, the better, the bigger of an impact that we can make and make a lasting one at that. So I have so much respect for this, not just in arts, but in humanity. And what good is it all without humanity anyway? That's why we're doing this, is to boost life here for us, not some idea, not some race to some high end of technology. there's always going to be that. There's always going to be this evolution of things. We don't have to, obsess over that, but it's important to engage these tools in a way that makes sense for the individual and that builds communities and that impacts everybody's bottom line at the end of the day. We have our society is doing better, on the small of things, but
And
and no matter how your life is, your mental health is important. It doesn't matter if you people who seem really successful or maybe barely holding on, there's so much to hold together. There's so much pressure, and so it's important for people to have these breaks and to have something to turn to. That's a tool for them to express themselves or explore something. I love art. I love music. It's a part of my life. And it always brings joy to me to hear when someone's able to produce something like you have without any training, but just the words in your heart and what you've seen and your experiences. That's wonderful. And, we've seen the same kind of thing happen in a more nerdy sense where all of a sudden what was a hard to understand technology becomes reachable for people. And all of a sudden people are able to develop things. And a long time ago, it was what you see is what you get, drag and drop, make a website, and now it's like, oh, I'm putting together my own bot to do something for me. And it's helping me do this XYZ, and when I turn people onto AI who really should be using it for their creative purposes and show them the tools, they love it. And they come back to me with their own tools that they found. And I had a writer who was an oral historian, okay, up north in New York State, and they had a huge manuscript they wanted to convert into a stage play. And I said, hey, let's see ways of approaching this. And before long, they were coming back to me with writing tools that they had found. And I was like, wow. And they were making bots. And I was so impressed. And it just takes a little bit of onboarding and introduction for people to do it. It's like learning to drive. You can do all kind of things. You want a race car drive? Sure, go do that. You want to anyway, there's variety there. There's something for everybody a lot of times in the creative space. And I've encountered a lot of skeptics who, like I said, turn around and show me things later. So it's always a joy. But on the large, as this grows, we have to take it in, realistic steps. And it's great to see how far you've come with this and how realistically approachable all of this has been for you and the companies that you have been helping. Let's see. So do you have any other thoughts here?
yeah, yes, so maybe I'll mention a little bit. So big part of the reason why I'm doing this, because again, working in AI, I think is really important. Integration, all the logical left brain things that we do that need to be done. But the key thing already, I think 2022, there's a Pew Research study that the biggest risk was really disconnecting people, making people feel disconnected from each other. And a recent research from Harvard Business School, there was an article in June, they did a number of studies where they were looking at AI impact on employees. And they repeated again and again the same result, that people who were using AI, while they could do their work better, that removed the opportunity to ask these questions of their colleague and actually connect with them. So people who were using AI in each study they've done felt more and more disconnected from humans. And that affected two things mainly, which was their ability to sleep and their alcohol consumption.
Oh, wow.
So people, again, in these was different countries, big groups of people, big cohorts. So every time I do AI training, a keynote, anything, I always say, when you do this work, connect with each other, connect with nature, find a way to do this. So a big part of why I do the music is really that connection part, to compensate for the really important work that needs to be done in AI integration, but really helping people feel well in order to be in the right mental state to be able to integrate and play and have fun, and then working on these fun projects together.
All right. It takes togetherness. It takes some team building for that, for sure. And that's one of the things you don't expect. One of the side effects of certain implementations is like all of a sudden you're not talking to people as much. And I think that depending on the type of person you are, that can have some impact. And some of us will always be social to a certain degree. But I mean, I saw it bring so many people together too at the same time. And that's, in different environments and in different situations. But overall, I mean, there's a huge dialogue going on and people are connecting over this topic. And it is in that way, bringing people together, but at the same time, I can understand, like, if I didn't have anyone else around to communicate with, it would just be me and this monoculture between the LLM and whatever, or whichever one I'm interacting with and what I'm learning on the side, so it really depends, but I think the more people get the right perspectives on this and how to use it, the easier it will be for people to help others come along on that, because it's not just another calculator. It's similarly an automation tool. It's something more and a little bit more of an extension of ourselves, in terms of that, just through the natural language, and the ability to just reason with it on that level is important. So, anyways, yeah.
And I wanted to mention one thing that I always say, that we have double standards when it comes to humans and AI.
Mm-hmm,
Your colleague, a lot of the time, what they tell you is not fully correct, but
mm-hmm,
we accept it. If the AI tells you something that's not fully correct, everybody goes mad. It's hallucinating, it's giving bad
mm-hmm,
information. But when you look at the quality of input and information you get, currently you get better quality information from AI, unless it's really expert knowledge, than
mm-hmm.
your colleague. But we still judge AI much more. Like
That's right. Yeah.
that humanness enables people not to judge each other, but they really judge AI. And for me, I'm kind of advocating for a single standard for quality of information. If you
Uh-huh.
accept it from your colleague, then you should accept it from AI with the same thing. It might not be fully correct,
That's
but
right.
it's a best input that I can get. And by the way, it's a tool. There was a recent study. They were looking what percentage of people believe that AI is conscious, and majority of participants believed that the AI was conscious. And the study said, like, AI is making us hallucinate.
Yeah.
We are starting to believe it's conscious. So it's really interesting to look at all of these things. And one more thing when it comes to the interactions and AI and connection and empathy. There was
Mm-hmm.
a study done, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months ago, when they looked at how we react when we communicate with a human versus when we communicate with an AI, and how do we judge the empathy levels. And as we know from neuroscience, there was a different article that every time we interact with a human, we get a dopamine hit. It's really addictive. Even a like on the web, it's we get our dopamine hit and we're happy.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did a blind study of talking to somebody, people rated AI as much more empathetic than fellow humans. So
Mm-hmm.
AI was rated really highly. But the moment people found out it was AI, they re-rated it really lowly, as a
Yeah.
low scale, knowing that it was AI, not a human.
Yeah.
So again, we have so many different standards in our minds,
Yeah.
depending on what it is. And all the joy they felt of being understood, suddenly now they didn't feel understood anymore when they knew it was AI. So I feel like there's a lot of work to still help people to process all of these things, to be able to integrate it well, to know it as a tool. It's not conscious, it's not a human, it's
Mm-hmm.
a tool to help us to get better. For me also, it's about redesigning jobs to allow
Yes.
the humans to be fully themselves and use these as tools,
Mm-hmm.
not really anything that's taking stuff away or replacing, but really brainstorming, getting information, putting drafts, and also monitoring well-being, because many people do not feel well when they use it. And again, for us who love AI, I want for everybody to use it. I want for everybody to love it and just have great time
Yeah.
with it. But
Uh-huh.
it's really helping ones not to stay behind, to be brought in and enjoy it as much as we do.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's just there's so much potential in every area that we have seen it in and what we've used it in. So, and yeah, especially as it gets cheaper, especially as, people are training these models on GPU, or excuse me, CPUs, and slowly making things more practical for, people who don't have a lot of money to train with or hardware. It's reachable. It's something that you can do. And especially in education, we've seen a lot of outreach with that. And that's helping a lot of people come together, in the positive light. I know you were on the road, but I had the Orange County public schools. I had some friends come out and talk on the show about how well that's working, and how the students are leading the initiatives, and how the parents and the teachers are coming together, and how it's just an overwhelming success. But therein lies, there is a the resources are there. It's like having running water. It's just there. It's a West Coast thing where they're doing this. So of course they have the resources, but it's a good test bed to see how things can be done right, and just how powerful of a tool it is for a lot of these students. And there's just as much skepticism in students as well. You know, age doesn't mandate what our perspectives are on this at all. You know, I've seen plenty of equal skepticism on all sides, and that's good. We need that, you know. But at the same time, understanding the tool is key, and understanding the limits of the tool is key. But like you said, people are very biased about it, you know, and it's like it's its own bias. Everybody's biased. Oh, it's AI. I don't like that as much. I'll change my score on it. But you know, I still use it in a way that I feel very safe about, which is gather this data, and now I'm going to fact check all of that, you know, and then do work from there. And it just automates a few things for me. But there's still a lot to explore. And, you know, in that, I mean, lots of discovery for science and math as well, because that's a huge interest of mine. And I spend a fair amount of time working with that in my conversations. So, yeah, it's just great. But yeah, we'll have a lot of things coming out of this summer's developments, I'm sure. There's a lot of hackathons going on around the world, a lot of people coming together, trying to build things for communities first and in an open source way. And that's an exciting thing as well, is that we have some really good communities around the world that are working with standards of safety and authenticity and ways of managing this as a global community, and not just leaving it up to the big companies, you know. Um, there's a lot of concerns that are realistic and addressable, and we have the technology and we have the means to do it now, and build right from the start, you know, and have something that's a lot safer. But it's the Wild West. It's an art, you know, it's growing. You know, the internet was an extremely disruptive technology when it really started coming into its own. And just like anything else, you know, as power tools have replaced manual tools, you know, it accelerates things, you know, the disruption may not be a negative one. It's a good thing, but I know
But
that,
it
what's that?
also brings a lot of fears for many
Yeah,
people. And for me, on the news and articles, I see equal amount of good things and bad things. And
right,
many things, like I just read an article about people being afraid that AI will degrade our brain development, like for children being used at school and so on. And they cite a study, I think it was from University of Cardiff, when they looked at when the GPS became available and people started using GPS for driving, that there was an effect on their hippocampus development, that it was actually smaller because we no longer needed to remember the directions. So that part of the brain didn't have to be as developed anymore. We could just go without having to think and work that hippocampus muscle.
right.
So I saw an article saying, you know, it's going to degrade children's brains and so on. But for me, it's like, you know, certain things maybe will not be as developed as before, but certain higher abilities can. So for me, I'm always looking like, what will that enable? Not
Oh, yeah.
having to look at the map while you're driving, it's allowing you to think and work on other things and be more safe on the road because you're paying attention to the road.
Right.
So again, I look at it as, yes, so some of the brain areas might be less developed, but some of them might be much more developed, like the frontal brain for decision making. When you have tools and you don't have to think of all the details and gather the information, you're able to have them at your finger points and
Yeah.
double check if it's correct. And then you can really use your frontal cortex and make much better decisions and make much bigger impact.
Right. You go further, faster, and really, you know, project more results and see that. So, yeah, it's amazing. And there's always a trade-off here, you know. I mean, if you're moving fast, you're not going to see the scenery next to you as well, you know. And again, it's all a balance in life. So, as with technology. But anyways, well, it's been incredible having you on. It's always awesome when we get to touch base in our busy lives. We always have so much to share with each other, and ideas and concerns, and just, you know, it's like we're all on this crazy ride looking out the window together sometimes, wondering where the road's going to really take us, you know. And but you know, we're in the driver's seat too, and it's where do we take this vehicle, you know? And that's for everybody out there. And you should feel empowered that if you're reasonably connected to this technology in any way and having dialogue out there with people, or working with your companies to engage this, integrate this, utilize this to your advantage, then you're in the driver's seat as well. And there's a community for you, and there's a lot of support. So are you going to, what is the next big move for you? I know that summer's upon us, and you have a very beautiful area that you live in. And are you going to get to take some more time to relax for yourself before you get back out on the road? What's your story there?
Yes, my plan is to relax as much as I can, but of course, there's still clients and they want workshops and trainings and so on. But
Mhm.
I'm not doing any big presentations. My next big presentation is in Zurich on September 1st, first day back to school. And we have 3 speakers. It's me, somebody from Google, and somebody from an investment company. So we're talking about implementation, practical hands-on.
Right.
So it will be a lot of fun because that's a nice conference.
Amazing. Excellent. Well, that's wonderful to hear. And as exciting as always. Glad that were able to get some time here with us and take a moment to just share with us and the world, your experience with everything that's been going on. And thanks for everything and everything that you do, and stay lucky and keep up the wonderful work. And until then, we'll be seeing you soon. So thanks
Thank
again,
you.
Agla. And thank you, everybody, for coming out and watching. This has been the 12th episode of the AI Think Tank podcast. I'm Dan Wilson. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you.